This is the Crowdcrux Crowdfunding Podcast with Sal Briggman, where we cover everything you need to know to launch a successful crowdfunding campaign. We speak with proven entrepreneurs who've raised money from the crowd and want to teach you how to do the same. Stay tuned because we're about to reveal how to launch your dream project. With your host, Sal Briggman.
Before we get started with this podcast episode, I want to take a second to introduce you to my friends at Fulfillrite. If you need help shipping out your Kickstarter or Indiegogo perks or rewards, Fulfillrite is the absolute best company for you. I've been working with them for a while and I can vouch for their services. They make it dead simple and take all of the headache out of shipping out all of those boxes, all of those orders to your backers and your customers. If you want to check them out, go to fulfillrite.com at fulfillrite.com. Hey guys, welcome back to the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Salvador Briggman. If you haven't listened to any of my other shows, welcome. On this show, we talk about crowdfunding, Kickstarter, Indiegogo, raising money for new companies, how do you actually launch one of these companies, and also we cover, kind of interestingly enough, I didn't really plan on this. When I was starting the show, or the podcast itself, I didn't plan on this, but we're kind of getting like a record of what works and what doesn't work with crowdfunding. And we're also documenting the experience of many of these different entrepreneurs. It's kind of cool to see the different stages of their career. So today's episode, we actually had the individual on in episode number 180. So he came on the show and talked about how he was able to raise $686,000 on Kickstarter from more than 10,000 backers. So this is for the public goods crowdfunding campaign. So he went into his strategy to be able to accomplish that essentially. But he's come back again with his next campaign and is talking and getting into how he was able to be successful with this new campaign. And this new one is for like a different basically product line. So the reason why I mentioned that is I think it's kind of cool that we're getting a record of different entrepreneurs, the products that they're launching, what goes into it, the marketing strategies, the things that worked, the things that didn't. And this is second campaign. This one right now has raised a little over $300,000, which is still a really great raise and much more than his $25,000 goal. So you're going to hear directly from him. You're going to hear his advice for you if you're a beginning Kickstarter campaigner right now, if you're an entrepreneur right now, his advice for you when it comes to doing things like, building a team and what he's been able to do to get to the company in this point and have a headquarters in New York City. So a lot of cool stuff, a lot of really valuable information that I think you're going to enjoy here today. Now, if you've been listening to my show, and wherever you are, in the world, you've seen that Kickstarter is something that can work if you have a prototype, if you have an idea, if you have a book that you want to create. You've seen some of the examples of different types of products that are doing well on Kickstarter. And if you've been sort of having an idea, or you have sketches, or you have even a prototype, I think now is a really great time to begin to dive into a little bit more education. So instead of just, listening to some of these episodes, but to get a clear roadmap going from point A to point Z, how to do this, how to execute one of these campaigns, what are the things that go into a marketing strategy, what are the things that go into PR when it comes to getting funded, how do you calculate reward costs, how do you come up with good reward ideas, all the little things, the components that go into this campaign. I put together for you a guide that basically dives into all of that. This is the Kickstarter launch formula. I've spent a lot of time on this guide for you, and it's really the culmination of many years worth of work in this industry, helping campaigns and also seeing what works and what doesn't. Also running other websites like Kickstarterforum.org, Crowdcrux, some of my other stuff, my YouTube channel. So if you're interested in grabbing a copy of the Kickstarter launch formula, a really easy way to do that is to go to crowdcrux.com/Kickstarter audio. That's crowdcrux.com/Kickstarter audio. And that will take you to Audible. Audible is basically audiobooks. You can listen to the Kickstarter launch formula if you want to grab a copy there. And that way you can be learning on the go, just like the way you like to listen to this podcast. You can be learning when you're walking down the street, when you're on the way to work, when you're in the car. It's a really easy way to begin to download this information into your brain and start to sort of ramp up this plan for your upcoming crowdfunding campaign. And by the way, a lot of the strategies, almost all of them, will work as well for Indiegogo. And I actually also go into a comparison of Kickstarter versus Indiegogo in that book. So you can go and grab a copy at crowdcrux.com/Kickstarter audio. Without further ado, let's get into today's podcast episode. Hey guys, welcome back to the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. We have a repeat guest here today. So way back when in episode 180, I interviewed Morgan Hirsh, the founder of Public Goods. He ran the first campaign, which raised at that time was $686,000. Pretty incredible, pretty insane campaign. He's back on Kickstarter with a whole new project, and it's going wild. Over $300,000 off a $25,000 goal. I'll let him tell you a little bit more about it. Morgan, welcome to the show.
Hey, how's it going? Thanks. Yeah, thanks for having me again.
Stellar success, man. That's pretty insane. You're able to do this a second time and pull this off.
Yeah, well, we're lucky because we're launching new products all the time, so it lends itself to new announcements. And I thought, we got our start on Kickstarter, so let's just keep going with it.
So can you tell listeners a little bit about this new product? I know Public Goods is a brand, but maybe you can tell them about, this new campaign you've launched and what this product is, who it's for, what they can do, what they can use it for, etc.
Yeah, Public Goods' mission is pretty broad. It's to make healthy, high-quality products more affordable and more accessible to people. Often, that if you want to buy healthy, whether it's personal care or cleaning products or food or whatever, people pay a huge premium for that, and that means that a lot of people are just priced out. So by going broad with the products and through a membership model, we figured out that we're able to deliver much better value than traditional retailers, or even better value than a lot of direct-to-consumer businesses, because we make money on the memberships and therefore don't need to make the same margin on our products as another D2C brand or a traditional brand that's going kind of through retail channels. Mm-hmm. So we started out, we launched the first Kickstarter, and that was starting out with bathroom essentials, and then we did household products. And just kind of the continuation of that, which might seem unusual, but when you kind of look at it through the lens of the greater mission, which is to make healthy products affordable, it sort of became obvious, and our backers just told us really what to do. So it was an easy decision. They said, well, we like that you're doing healthy personal care and cleaners, but what about food? That's where we spend most of our money. So that was the next step. So this current Kickstarter campaign that's got about a week left is about launching healthy food products. So we've got kind of all sorts of things in the pipeline, from tomato sauce to beans to healthier.
So this is just to clarify here. So basically, you're selling a membership to the website where they can then order these goods at cost. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. At our cost. We were doing with backers with the at cost language. It's not like the cost of manufacturing and then I pay for the shipping and I pay for, so it's at our cost. Basically, we aim to make our profits on membership. So from a business model standpoint, it's like a hybrid between Costco and Trader Joe's. Mm-hmm. Costco in that the lion's share of their profits come from memberships, and Trader Joe's in that everything we do is our own brand of products that we've designed and developed.
Cool, very cool. So when it comes to, I guess, food items, is this kind of like one of those like grocery delivery things where I'm going to get this kind of in the mail, the food, or how does that work? I mean, it might be a dumb question, but I'm just kind of curious.
I mean, it's exactly like that. I mean, it's there's different shipping methods that we use. We have a warehouse in New Jersey, and then we're opening up another one in California, and we stock, because we're starting out with non-perishables, so like pasta, tomato sauce, salsa, chips, those kinds of things. And there's about 200 products that are in the pipeline that we're planning to launch over the next, say, 6 to 9 months.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just kind of like the essentials that people need in their household, but starting pantry non-perishable. I'm interested in doing fresh stuff as well, but
in the future, yeah. Well, this is awesome. I mean, you basically, with your first campaign, you had 10,000 backers. This new project that you have, which is still live on Kickstarter, you have like 4,000. That's a lot of people, man. Like, so what did you learn from your first campaign when it came to after the Kickstarter phase that you could share with the listeners?
Yeah, honestly, I don't know that we really got any better at it. Like I think we kind of really nailed it the first time, and then honestly, like it's interesting because the second time, before, the first campaign was pre-launch, so I got to focus all my attention on the script and the video and exactly what the message was. And the second time around, we had more money, so there's like better production quality. But I personally had less time to focus on the script and really what we were saying. And I think the lesson there is, since this, and there could be a lot of different reasons that the first campaign was more successful. One, people had bought a membership already, so the 10,000 people who bought a membership couldn't buy a membership, like they already had one, so they were out. But I also think that the lesson is that, like, really focus on what you're saying and the video, but not just the video and the production quality, but the script, and making sure it's really succinct and tight and the message is right. And so I think, like, the first video, I really took a lot of time, and we actually adjusted the second video, because I looked at it, and what you see now is like a minute and a half, but initially it was 2 minutes. And as the video, the production was better. We spent more money on it, but it wasn't. I hadn't spent enough time on the script, and it sounded like it was a bit more redundant and less clear. So I think that's one thing I learned, but not something I learned from the first one, but kind of
from this one. Yeah.
What I did wrong on this one, even though it's still pretty successful.
So yeah, I mean, it's actually, I think, really successful, considering you have a $25,000 goal. It's like 1,500% of your goal. So you really can't wish for better there. But I want to talk about this current campaign, but I have like one or two questions about your previous one. And I kind of want to give listeners like an idea of what it's like to have such a hugely successful project, and what that's like from an after Kickstarter standpoint. So in terms of what did this actually do for the business? Like, now you have all of these customers. What was that like, having to do all of that customer support of 10,000 people? Can you give listeners like an idea of some of the stuff that maybe you went through, or just an idea of what the post Kickstarter was like?
Yeah, right after, I'm trying to remember now, but like right now, so we have like overall, let's say, about 25,000 customers total, because we've got the Kickstarter ones and these ones, and then other ones that we've acquired throughout the year. And we could manage that easily with 2 full-time customer service people. And we've just brought on a third, but that's because I'm sort of like obsessive about fast response times. So we keep our customer service response time under 5 hours right now, with 2 people, and I was hoping to add a third person to get it under 1 hour. So we've just done that. But so in terms of like all the tickets that come in, the customer service tickets, with 10,000 people, it was easy to handle with 1 customer service person full time, which was fine, because initially that was just while the campaign was running, we hired an agency that takes a commission on the total amount, but they also manage the kind of the customer service during the campaign. And then once the campaign's over, that gives you time to kind of prepare. With what the first campaign was 38 days. We're like, okay, this is working, so we better get ready for this. And we see kind of the amount of comments coming in and how many people. So it was me and my business partner, so it was actually not so tough for us to handle customer service tickets until we found somebody to help with that, which we did basically like about a month after we launched.
I imagine with the first project, it was a tremendous sense of validation, because you got onto all of these different media publications. You were able to basically validate that this is something that people want, something that they're willing to buy into. Was this also for this new project, getting into sort of a new segment? Was that also about getting the validation? Like, is this something we should be focused on as a company? Is this something that people want? Can you talk a little bit about that?
I think once we're doing the Kickstarter, we've already decided to go forward. For our case, I think, and I have heard a lot of, I think that's a good idea, right? Like, I think that if somebody's launching a product that's like risky, or they're not sure if there's going to get traction, they have an idea, they have a prototype. I think that makes a lot of sense, right? Go to Kickstarter, see if there's a demand for that particular product. Maybe it's unique. What was that crazy? The one that got all that crazy success, like that fidget
cube, yeah.
Yeah. So like that's a product that's like so unique, so different. You wouldn't know if people would want it or not want it. So going to Kickstarter and testing it out, I think is a great idea. For us, like, we had already made the decision, and certainly with this recent Kickstarter launching food, we already had 10,000 people that we could ask. They were members, they were buying our products, they liked our products, they were repeating. And so we just sent out a survey to our existing customer base saying like, hey, what do you want to see next?
Yeah.
So we knew at the very least that the people who had already bought in wanted to buy food from us. So we were in a good position there.
One of the things I noticed when looking at your current campaign for public goods, it has a very unique funding trajectory. A lot of the times with campaigns, I'll sort of see like they begin to lose momentum in the middle, and it just kind of like peters off. With yours, it kind of looks like it's steadily built over time. Like you hit your goal, I think, within the first week or so, and then it kind of keeps building. What is responsible for that? Is it your marketing? Were you doing ads? Can you shed a little bit of light on that?
Yeah, we're advertising to the campaign. And I think that that's probably like if somebody's just looking at Kickstarter, and that's something I think that's really important for anyone to know, is that a lot of these campaigns have a lot of money behind them. And so that means that they require money, right? There's certain agencies you can work with that'll finance it if it starts to kind of get going. But they require some sort of funding, which we're lucky because with this campaign we had. So we could advertise on Facebook, and we're selling memberships. So the memberships are pure profit minus I think it's 8% that Kickstarter takes, 5%, and then they say that Stripe takes 3%. So so it's like 92% profit if you're selling a membership, or if you're selling some sort of physical product. You got to figure out the margin, and then you have that amount that you kind of wiggle room that you could figure out depending on your business to market. But you might have to fund that. Like in this case, our campaign is 60 days long. Kickstarter will pay us 2 weeks after the campaign closes. And so we might spend like quite a bit of money in terms of ads to market this campaign.
Upfront, yeah.
Upfront. And so, you need to have that money. So like, because Kickstarter's, in this case, like Kickstarter agreed to make it a project we love. I think the normal like rule of thumb number is like 10% of traffic comes from, Kickstarter's own platform. But over the past month, Kickstarter has sent us 0 traffic.
That's a different change. And also different categories I tend to see kind of vary depending on the time of the year in terms of the actual traffic and pledging from Kickstarter. So it kind of varies there. And that's something that you actually didn't anticipate. You probably expected more people, I imagine, because a lot of people loved your other project. And I think it's a great product too, the one now. That's kind of surprising. So when it came to that, like, I don't, obviously want to put you on the spot here, but what kind of what should people expect to invest in their project? Like if they want to have a really big, like 6-figure raise, and they're kind of wondering like, okay, how do I budget for this? What would you answer to someone like that?
I think it's really all over the map, but like on our first campaign, we were seeing like and again, like I don't exactly, but something like a 10x return on marketing. So you can imagine, take the campaign total divided by 10, and that, we spent somewhere around there for marketing dollars. So we needed to have that cash. So in our case, like for that first campaign, when we saw it was working and we wanted to keep spending money on marketing, we were lucky, and we actually were like, okay, well, we could stop spending money on marketing, and the campaign will be, okay, because we had whatever it was to spend. But we actually had to go out and borrow some money quickly. Apparently now there are, and I can't remember the names, but there are groups too that will fund once they see that you're acquiring customers via Facebook ads or Instagram ads. They'll help fund it for you and make money in that way. In this case, though, for this campaign, it's not nearly as good, and we're having to put much more money out of pocket.
Do you know the names of any of those websites or groups?
Yeah, well, Backer Camp is who we use, but I think they'll do that to some extent. But we use Backer Camp, and there's another one. I've been asked this question so many times, and then let me see if I have it here. I'm looking through my notes.
Okay, yeah, while you're looking there, yeah, Backer Camp is
Funded or something like that.
What's that?
I think it's called something like Funded or
Funded Today?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Okay. I had to interrupt this podcast episode because I want to introduce you to my friends at The Gadget Flow. Their product discovery platform reaches 22 million people per month. They've helped more than 5,000 crowdfunding campaigns thus far, and they have a social media following of more than 700,000 followers. If you want to gain access to their marketplace and list your own product, you can go to thegadgetflow.com/submit and list your project today. So would it be accurate, you say, to like budget 10% of your goal and put that towards things like marketing and the video and all of that stuff? Do you think that's like an accurate estimate?
No, I mean, I think that's low. There's an interesting article on Kickstarter videos and which ones are successful and which ones aren't. If you check out Video Pixie is a great platform where you can find freelancers to make videos for Kickstarter. And they came out of that Startup Accelerator, Y Combinator, and anyway, it's a company that's useful to find people to make your video. Mm-hmm. And the founder wrote a great article, did all kinds of research on the video to the amount that a company got funded. And, really if you're spending like upwards of $10,000 on a video, you're much more likely to have a successful campaign.
Yeah, so that would actually be a separate cost than the actual advertising. So you'd have to invest in the video, and then for the ads, that's more what I was referring to, like 10% of your funding amount. Or what are your thoughts on that?
I honestly, like a friend of mine had a cat product, a cat toy called Kittio, and raised like $300,000 or $400,000, and he didn't do any advertising, but he got a lot of PR. I think another company, Dame Products, she also didn't do, I think, any advertising and had like a $800,000 campaign, but got tons of PR. I think the key thing is there has to be like a really thoughtful marketing strategy. And it has, one has to take time to think about like, how are we going to get people to know, is this a press-worthy product? And do a lot of work up front to find out like, is it press-worthy? Isn't it? If it's not, like, let's advertise. And I think another good plan is lead gen. But, nobody knows. There's a company that just launched that was a total copycat of what we did. And I actually thought, like, as far as copycat companies go, like, I was like, well, they've done a good job. It's a good video, decent product design. Obviously, I find it weird when people just copy other people, but I still thought, like, okay, like, I respected good copy, and it was a total flop, and they clearly had money to put behind, and they were running a lead gen campaign. So I think it's really hard to tell, and I wouldn't feel comfortable, like, saying, put 10% in marketing, because I think there's all different scenarios, and it's just, but I would say that it's really important to take time and have a marketing strategy, because Kickstarter's not going to do the work for you.
Well said. I think that's very well said. It's part art, part science, and it's difficult to know, depending on all the different types of products that are out there, the individual demographics, like all of that kind of stuff. One of the things that you noted was that there's a trick on Indiegogo to avoid basically, need this kind of chicken and egg problem. It takes money to make money. What was it you were referring to with that?
Well, I heard, and this is just a conversation. Somebody reached out to me and they were curious because I was doing a bunch of crowdfunding campaigns. And actually, they wanted to get a bunch of information, but I ended up learning more from them. And he told me that he negotiated with Indiegogo to get them to pay him every week. I tried and failed to do this, but he actually pulled it off. So he was like,
"Whoa."
Yeah, so that he said, look, I'm putting all of this money in Facebook ads right? But if I have to carry this for a month, I'll have nothing to reinvest. So if you guys pay me out every week, then I'm going to be able to take that money, reinvest in ads, and drive more traffic to your platform. I'll have a better campaign. You guys will get more commission, and everybody wins. And they did it. So when I go back to Indiegogo, that will be, one of our conditions to work with them.
That is so interesting. I've actually never heard that before. Wow.
Yeah. So hopefully they won't make a rule not to do it because of this. But I did hear that he pulled that off. So.
Wow. So when you talk about going back to Indiegogo, did you go into like the in-demand program, or what were you referring to there?
Yeah, exactly. The in-demand program. So after we run a campaign, if it's working, it's just a great way. Like, people think about it as crowdfunding, but ultimately it's a channel to, number one, get pre-sales, but number two, it's just marketing, right? Like, if you have a company or a product or whatever, as a marketer, your goal is just to get people to know about that product. And so Kickstarter and Indiegogo are just great platforms where people are there. They're there and they're not like, oh yeah, like you can skip this ad in 5 seconds. It's an audience. It's like, okay, cool. I'm down to watch a 1 or 2 minute video on something that could be cool or interesting or new. And so it's just a great marketing channel.
Yeah.
So once something's been validated on Kickstarter and you see people want it, I didn't see any reason why we shouldn't just keep running that video that tells our story on another platform on an ongoing basis.
Did it work like Amazon, where people were discovering you on Indiegogo and backing you there, or was it mainly people sort of clicking through the Kickstarter to back you on Indiegogo?
No, I think that we use the same strategy. We would advertise to people.
Oh, okay. So you kept up the ads.
Yeah, we just keep advertising. We keep monitoring our acquisition costs. Indiegogo, in this case, in my case, paid us out once a month, and so we were just running it through ads.
Okay. I had one other technical question here. I know, on the marketing side, I noticed one of the things that you guys do is you also offer Messenger support, chat with us on Messenger. And that's definitely a newer thing. People thinking about maybe putting together a chat bot or more interfacing via Messenger. What was your experience like that with this project? Was it effective for you? Do you plan to do it again?
That's so interesting because I didn't even know that.
The chatbot?
Yeah, I did not. I'm not even. So I'm kind of embarrassed because I'm not even aware that we're doing that. So I'm not.
Okay.
I'm not getting any messages. I answer a lot of the comments myself, and then we have an agency that's answering the comments, and we have customer service people now. But I'm not getting any messages on my phone.
Okay.
So I'm not sure about if that's a feature on Kickstarter or if our agency has implemented that. But I've been a bit disappointed actually in our response times this campaign.
Okay.
But so I don't know.
Okay. Yes, those are one of the questions I had. But one of the things I always like to ask my guests is, I think we focus a lot on tactics and strategies on this show, but we don't always talk about the actual entrepreneur and the individual and what it is that you personally find most rewarding about doing this. in your life, you're at a certain point in your life and you've created this really great new brand and lots of people are loving it. For you, like what's the biggest reward there for doing that, and what keeps you going?
Yeah, and that's super exciting. I mean, I came to New York after having a manufacturing company that ended up not working. We had big accounts that closed, like American Apparel, and other accounts that moved production offshore. So I was running a manufacturing company that didn't end up making it. And then I came to New York with this concept of really, making healthy, high quality products more affordable to people. And I figured this Costco Trader Joe's hybrid model could really work. And it was super challenging. I went to investors to try to pitch the idea. And I got feedback like, no, you can't launch, like you can't have one brand of soap and toilet paper and toothpaste. It doesn't make sense. Why not just stick to one product? And like, that really wasn't what I wanted to do. I thought like, yeah, sure, there's companies that have done it, toothbrush companies and shaving companies or whatever, and it's worked. But like, to me, it's not exciting. There's not like a greater purpose there. And not something I want to dedicate, my life to or a decade to or whatever. And so it's extremely rewarding to kind of like stick through, believe in something, and then, see that regardless of what, friends or strangers or investors say, to go on a platform like Kickstarter, tell your story and see that, and then people like it, and then you launch it and people buy it and repeat, and like watching it grow. Now we've got, it's still a small team, but I'm proud of about like 12 people. And so that's like, I don't know, it's just an amazing feeling.
That's actually a pretty sizable team, I'd say, for a small business, having like 10 or 12 people. And also the fact that you guys have now like 60 premium home essentials and like different brands and such. Like now you have a headquarters in New York City. It sounds like things are really happening there,
Yeah, it's really, yeah. Since the end of the Kickstarter campaign last year, the company has been growing at like about 20% a month, and it's been fantastic. And then people are repeating and sending in great messages for the most part, anyway. And so yeah, it's really rewarding. And then like, now it's just like, it's fun thinking about how to message better, how to market it better, how to build the brand, and like thinking a lot about public goods and how could we do more than just deliver great quality soap and shampoo, and how could we reduce waste. And, our bottles are made from sugarcane, and that's cool. But like, we learned that there's another way to actually, a new technology to make our cleaners actually biodegradable. So we're trying to introduce that in 2019. And, it's just like all kinds of, like, it's just like, it's hard work, but it's a lot of fun. And it's really rewarding to have kind of built something that people like and love.
I'm speaking to the crowdfunders in the audience who have already launched a Kickstarter campaign, or have actually even successfully run a campaign. And the reason is, I think you will understand this pain point most. And that is, when you finally do raise money on Kickstarter or Indiegogo, the hardest part is not collecting the cash. The hardest part is shipping out all of those perks and rewards to your backers. It is a nightmare, my friends. It's a lot of spreadsheets, it's a lot of headache, and it's a lot of stress. That's why I recommend BackerKit. If you have not heard of BackerKit, they help you collect surveys, they help you collect data, and the entire fulfillment process is just so much easier and so many less spreadsheets when you use their software. You can check them out at backerkit.com and use CrowdCrux for a special discount. When it comes to that team building element, do you have any things that you've learned on that sort of side of the equation? Because I do think that trying to do something yourself, this is sort of my model actually in business when I was getting started. Like, I wanted to do everything myself. And it really was difficult. And what I realized was I have to remove myself a bit and trust other people and build a team around me. And that's one of the hardest things I think I've done in the past like year or so. For you, what was that like? Do you have any lessons to impart there?
I mean, I was really lucky because people could make this luck for themselves, I guess, is like to start out Like, there's no way I could have done this alone. I have a business partner, Mike, who's really much more technical than I am. And so he was like, so, he was super helpful in, getting, the website up and getting the products sourced. So a lot of the details and operational details that go into it. So I would recommend, anybody starting anything, it's good to partner with somebody with the complementary skill set and somebody, who you like and trust and can work with day in and day out and is gonna stick with it. So that's the first thing. And then in terms of building the rest of the team, like at a certain point, it's just like, okay, I just can't handle this anymore. I'm not good at this. And so then your next hires become pretty obvious. Like I'm still like of the opinion that it's good to be pretty scrappy. I know a lot of companies, once they get money, like start really hiring and building like, big, like, C-suite titles and hire their CFO or their CTO. But I haven't taken that approach. Like when we needed a software developer because using freelancers wasn't working, we hired a software developer, not a CTO. Just because, we didn't hire a creative director, we hired, a designer. So, yeah, I think it just becomes evident who you need. And then it's a matter of, we post a lot of the needs that we have on AngelList. And I've started actually doing like just 10-minute Skype video calls rather than I was doing half-hour calls. But it was like you get a sense within 10 minutes if you gel with the person. And then, of course, you have a 30-minute call, and then I do an in-person call meeting. But just like so I could talk to a lot of different people and make sure that we're hiring people that are excited about the mission and the company, and also understand that like we don't really know what we're doing, that we're an early stage startup, that there's not like all kinds of structure. They're going to learn from the best, we're not like that we're all learning as we go, and somebody who's kind of prepared for that. And then again, like, so far, we've been really happy with the team we've built and haven't had a lot of like turnover, and I think we've been lucky there too.
Yeah, these are a lot of good tips, and also just a lot of great stuff I think you've shared. Some of the things that I didn't even know, like on Indiegogo, being able to negotiate that, I've actually never heard of that before. So that's really interesting. So the final question that I have for you here is that I think Kickstarter is different from sort of traditional advertising and traditional product launch, and that's a little bit more personal, and you're also a little bit more involved. So I wanted to ask you, what do you think is the importance of, I guess the word for it is like humanity, or being another human being and being honest and transparent and like being your own personality or brand with your backers. What are your thoughts on that? How is that important? Should people shy away from that? Is that something they should do? Would love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, like this copycat brand that I mentioned earlier, I thought it was interesting because even though I really liked, I actually kind of like I said, like I think they executed pretty well, but it didn't work, and I was wondering why, and I think it could be it could be that like they're not in the videos, they're not talking, they're not, whereas like in our videos, it's just me talking to the camera, and it's a script, and we thought a lot about it, but you can kind of like see this is the founders, this is the story, as opposed to just the concept, and I think also just like the data shows that those types of campaigns that are authentic, not trying to be tear jerky, not trying to be funny or silly, but are just like the person talking to the camera and saying what it is, are the ones that actually work the best. And so I think that's really important. And then I think throughout, like in our first campaign, we did live stream videos where people could ask me any questions that they had. And I think it's important to, and then to answer the comments honestly and actually, I think, and quickly is the other big piece. I think the last campaign we were all over it, and so I was getting in there. And on this campaign, I was busier, and we were relying on, we have so many tickets coming in, and there's all these different channels, and we weren't as fast. And I could see now that some of the comments, people got a little frustrated with us, and then can kind of snowball a little bit. So that's a risk. So it's important to like be honest and stay on top of those comments. And yeah.
Very well said. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing all this. Where can people go to learn more about the new public goods campaign and also some of the other work that you have?
Well, our website is publicgoods.com. And then our Kickstarter is, I guess, if you just check out Kickstarter and search for public goods, our campaigns will come up. There's the food campaign and the original one.
Awesome. Well, congratulations on your success. The first project, this one has been also, knocking it out of the park there. Completely like, it surprises me, like the level of dedication that you guys have. It sounds like you have very good values when it comes to your company. And also, I think it really shows with the amount that people are connecting with your service. So thank you for coming on the show. And if you have another project, we'll have to have you back.
Oh, amazing. Thanks so much. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. This is Salvador Briggman hailing in from Brooklyn, New York. It is autumn time now in Brooklyn. It's a really exciting time because all the leaves are changing. It's really beautiful. And I do like it. I actually hate winter because it gets cold. Like I like it for like a few days, but then it gets really old. But I love autumn time just to see the beauty that is nature and also Central Park. So thank you for joining me here today. Wherever it is you're located, I hope that you're having a good time planning for your project. I hope that this show has been instrumental for you in that, putting out this free resource for you. I hope you've been able to take advantage of it. You maybe have also looked at some of the other episodes that I have out there. If you're not yet ready to do something like, invest in my coaching or like a one-off coaching call or something like that, another good option is to get on my weekly newsletter called Killer Crowdfunding Tips. So that weekly newsletter, I will send out free education, information, videos, all that kind of stuff. And it's really completely free. You can go and check it out. And basically, the idea is to, as you're leading up to the launch, sort of surround you with different ways you can learn about this process. So number one, I have my paid resources like the Kickstarter launch formula, courses I run, etc. I also have the coaching, giving you personal attention with Sal, with me. And then I have other stuff like Kickstarter forum. I have my YouTube channel, different ways that I'm trying to basically expose you to this material and this education in my blog, crowdcrux.com. But when it comes to, making sure that this is on your radar, I found email to be a really effective way. So by signing up for this email newsletter, you basically will start to get updates and be reminded that this is something important. These are the things you should be paying attention to. And also, so you can always reply to those emails and you'll get directly to me. So that's crowdcrux.com/subscribe. That is crowdcrux.com/subscribe. That will take you to my weekly email newsletter. You can sign up there, enter your name and email address, and we can get started, getting you ready for launching this campaign on Kickstarter. Thank you so much for joining me. Again, my name is Sal, and I will see you next time.